And one question that I often ask the student teachers is, so what inspired you to join teaching? Right? And then when they share their responses, you can see that the majority of them joined because they really wanted to make a difference. They wanted to inspire the young, and many of them will cite actually their personal experiences. Maybe they were helped by their own teachers, and they were really motivated, really inspired to come back, to give back. And I think this is something that's very important. Yeah, because you do want your teachers to be role models, and to really have that genuine desire to inspire the children. And I think that's something that we hold dear.
Hi everyone, welcome back to our podcast series. So just a quick recap for those of you who might be new here. We are a non-profit organization who does upstream work with children's well-being to help them identify their self-worth and strengths. So this podcast initiative is really to bring the voices together that can help to shape the way we think about children's well-being in Singapore. Alright, so this episode is really a SG60 special, and I'm really very honored, humbled, and excited to welcome Miss Loh Wee Cheng, Divisional Director of the Student Development Curriculum, Division 1 at MOE. Alright, so we'll be discussing the topic on more than a subject, the heart of CCE in our local schools in Singapore. So without further ado, let me introduce Miss Loh.
Thank you, Divya. I'm really happy to be here today.
Thank you so much for being part of the podcast, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more of your insights, especially on children's well-being and CCE. All right, so maybe we can start off by maybe you can share with us what exactly is your role in MOE, and share a little bit more about CCE.
Okay, so I'm the Divisional Director for Student Development Curriculum Division 1, and I oversee the CCE curriculum. CCE stands for Character and Citizenship Education. And although it sounds like it is just one subject, it's got several content areas in it, including areas like national education, family education, education and career guidance, and of course, mental health education, which is a topic that we'll be discussing today.
Definitely, yeah. So thanks for giving that overview as well. Maybe we can start off by kind of sharing with us what's your definition of well-being for children, and how do you feel like CCE come into place when it comes to addressing children's well-being?
Okay. Yeah. So when we talk about student well-being, I think we all can picture in our minds, in the context of education, students who are really happy in school as well as engaged in their learning. Yeah. And of course, when we talk about student well-being, this is something that's important to us in the CCE curriculum, because we really want to help to build up our students' individual strengths, skill sets, dispositions, as well as sense of resilience and purpose, so that they can lead purposeful and engaging lives, and to think about what they can also contribute as future citizens.
So earlier we were having a conversation of how CCE can kind of promote strengths in children. Maybe you can share a little bit more about that.
Okay. So I think a key pillar of the CCE curriculum is really about helping our students to develop themselves socially and emotionally. And we call it in short social emotional learning. And one part of it is actually their sense of self-awareness as well as social awareness. So how do they, what do they know about themselves, their sense of identity, and thinking about their relationships with others, and how do they interact with others, how can they work with others. And I think in terms of knowing oneself, knowing one's sense of strengths is actually a very key part. And we want to acknowledge that every child is different. Right? So it's important that we help every child to also discover their own strengths, so that they can build on that and maybe attain that sense of fulfillment and purpose.
Of course. Yeah, and I think it's definitely remarkable how, like CCE have like transitioned. We were talking, in like with earlier conversations with educators, and they have helped me realize, or help our whole team realize how we have progressed as a nation, right? Like in the past, there was like no SEN officers, there was no like counselors, like not much counselors. So now it kind of progressed, and then CC is often like kind of like being firmed up as well, because it was sharing about the mental health component. So I think it's really remarkable how we are progressing, and I think that's something we want to acknowledge as well. Yeah. So I just want to understand your perspective, right? In your view, do you feel like CC should be approached as more as like an opportunity to develop well-being habits rather than just a subject? Yeah.
Okay. So I think you're right to say that actually CCE is both, right? So the CCE curriculum comprises the lessons that the teachers will carry out in class with the students. But more importantly, is actually the opportunities that we give to students to apply some of the things that they have learned in the lessons and to exercise that capacity. So for instance, this could be in platforms like the CCA's, co-curricular activities.
Yeah.
It could be during some of the outdoor adventure camps that they attend. It could be during the learning journeys when they visit external organizations. Yeah, and when we talk about student well-being, I think one of the key components that we emphasize a lot is really that sense of resilience. Yeah, so you see this coming into play a lot in the cohort camps,
Yes.
right? When you put them in an environment that's perhaps not so comfortable, or there are certain challenges. If you can't light a fire to cook your dinner, how do you react, right? Do you get all upset, or do you learn to find ways, different ways of maybe setting up the campsite or lighting the fire so that you overcome immediate challenges?
Yeah, is it outward bound or something that
Yeah,
the
we
P5
have
camp, right?
we have an outward bound
Yes.
program for our secondary three
Secondary
students.
school.
Yeah, but we realized that to prepare them for that, actually we start the camps earlier in primary 5 as well.
Nice. Okay, thanks for sharing that. So like we talked about like affirming them, identifying their strengths, and it's really about the culture, right? You know, like how do we like affirm them beyond just the CCE lessons as well? So like in your opinion, like just want to understand how can this culture be built further, especially creating such an affirmative culture in a school setting?
Yeah. So the enactment of the CCE curriculum is very much a whole school approach. So it's not just about the CCE teachers, but it's really all the way from the school leaders, the school leadership, to the various departments and the culture that they want to introduce to their school. And when we say culture, we're not just focusing on the lessons and the learning outcomes, we're really talking about the relationships between everyone within the school community, the kind of language that they use, are they affirming, are they encouraging to one another, and how do they get one another to kind of push themselves, to motivate themselves a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's very important as well, right? Like, you know, I think earlier we were also talking about the relationship, right? You know, when we have with kids, and like it's more of like building that affirmation in them so that they know that something, that they are worth it in something and they have strengths as well, right? So I'm just also wanting to understand what do you think should be done further, especially to create more or strengthen this culture further in schools?
Yeah. So I think we have made quite a bit of progress over the years, and one of the approaches that we've taken in recent years is really strengthening the partnership with parents, because we recognize that students spend a fair amount of time in school, but they all go back to their homes, to their families with the parents, and the families and parents actually have a very pivotal role to play in helping to reinforce some of these good habits that the students have picked up in school. So we've really worked with them through our parent support groups to share information, resources. There's a Parenting for Wellness resource kit, there's a website, and essentially we've picked out some important strategies that we thought parents might find useful to know, and how they can actually bring this home and enact it in the home with their kids as well.
Interesting, yeah, because it's also like they are spending a good hour, a few hours in school, then they're heading back home. So it's very interesting how you're trying to involve the parents as well through PSG, I believe, as well, right? So coming back to that, like, you know, I just want to also understand, do you feel like there are opportunities for like other community partners, like, you know, whether the after school care or maybe partners like Forte360, you know, to support like schools in helping to maybe strengthen or the delivery of CCE lessons. And so the basis is so that we don't put in an additional strain in educators, because we were discussing as well, educators are really stretched. So how can we offload their burden with such partnerships?
I think in terms of the partnerships, you will find that our biggest partner is really still the parents, because they are the ones who play that central role in the lives of their children. So we have been working very hard with our parents. I think in the after-school space, we do have various community partners that work with our school. Some of them offer after-school programs where children who may not be able to go home to parents because the parents are working, right? They do stay on in school to participate in a number of after-school programs. So I think where the objectives are complementary, we can see partners, community partners coming in to work with the schools.
Interesting. All right. So like, I just want to also understand, right? Like, acknowledging that schools have their own needs, right? Different schools have different needs because we have been working with quite a few schools, and also the pace of the progression of CCE. Um, I would like to understand, do you feel like there should be a common goal or area that is like kind of mandated across all schools when it comes to addressing or achieving student well-being optimally?
Yeah. I would say that actually all our schools are on board with us
Of course,
in
yeah.
this CCE journey of progressing towards student well-being. And like you said, actually because the needs of the students differ or they vary across schools, so what we've given schools is this latitude to think very hard about the type of students that they have and the needs of their students, and then to design appropriate experiences.
That's really good.
Yeah. And I mean, I can just share a few examples.
Of course, please,
So,
please.
for example, at the start of the school year, many schools will think very intuitively, okay, we need to get the students who are new to one another to get to know each other, right? But there are many ways to do this. Some of them organize an orientation program. Some of them do it through a camp because they feel that that would actually enable students to get to know one another through maybe certain outdoor activities, certain competitions, races, etc. And some of them may choose to do it in a totally different way. I know of one school that organized learning journeys to hawker centers.
Oh, nice.
So they told the form teachers, okay, you will take your form class out, this was a secondary school, to hawker centers all over Singapore for a meal.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and that was part of
Yeah.
a very deliberate effort to get the form teachers to know the students in their class.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also makes me like think how much are the teachers are putting in effort to look beyond just the CCE lessons,
That's
right?
right.
This is like an extra effort that they are doing at their own time and energy as well.
Yeah.
So it's really like definitely is something that needs to be acknowledged as well. Like teachers are definitely doing this beyond, just the CCE lessons. Yeah. I'm also just curious, do you feel like, I mean, you address part of it, which is like giving the schools flexibility to kind of see how they should approach, children's well-being in different stages. So like, do you feel that should be done more, or like which other areas you feel more flexibility needs to be given to the school when it comes to addressing children's well-being?
Okay. I think in terms of addressing student well-being, actually there are some common ways that we have introduced to schools and which are progressing quite well. So for example, the CC curriculum is one of them. So there are very structured, well-designed lessons within the CC curriculum on mental health, on cyber wellness, right, to really help our students understand the importance of some of these habits, or to even recognize some of the risks out there, and so that they can actually build these habits and reinforce them over time. There are also what we call student development experiences. So some of the platforms that I shared with you earlier, so apart from camps and learning journeys, some of them may visit maybe external organizations where they get to listen to maybe speakers from the industry to talk about a particular topic, and that helps them to understand either themselves or the trends in a particular area even more. Yeah, so these are what I would say more common efforts in CCE when it comes to student well-being.
Thanks for sharing that. Right, so like maybe let's just take a little bit of a shift as well, right? Our world is quite different after the pandemic have hit, right? So like I think it has been a pivotal moment for all of us and our whole nation as well, right? So I'm just curious to understand your perspective. How does it after pandemic has hit? How has it shaped or reshaped our understanding in children's well-being, and how does the role of CCE plays in supporting it?
Yeah. So I think the pandemic was quite unfortunate, right? Because it really closed off activities for many people for an extended period of time. And one of the observations we made about our students is that because they had to go online for lessons, right? That also meant that some of them also gain access to the online world for recreation, for social media, for games, right? And we know that online activities is not bad in itself, right? But too much of it can be quite harmful. Yeah, so I think stepping up our efforts in the area of cyber wellness is something that we've done quite deliberately. Yeah, not so much to say that we can't have students, be online at all, right? We're not trying to be fully restrictive, but we're really trying to help them to learn to be a bit more discerning and to build good habits online as well. So to really find that balance, if you go online, Are you also giving yourself time to socialize, to meet your friends in person, to hang out? And also for things like sleep, physical activity, nutrition. So really to help them find that balance.
I think that's very important and such a important thing they brought up, because like when we were speaking to some of the organizations at school, they did share that after COVID, students are actually struggling to make friends, socializing, because they're very used to like online gaming, communicating online. When they come to in person, they don't know how to make friends. So like I think that aspect is very important as well and crucial, especially after this COVID have hit for us, right? So like we also understand like CCE content is often reviewed and updated as well based on the current trends and stuff. So like how is it, how does it stay relevant in like kind of ensuring that the needs of the students are being taken care of, especially now with all the new challenges and trends coming up?
Yeah. So in the Ministry of Education, actually we review our curriculum quite regularly, and we do have a very systematic and structured approach to it. And one of the things we do is we engage various partners as well. So it's not just the ministry reviewing the curriculum on our own, but really talking to different partners, different government agencies, parents as well, just to understand some of the trends and some of the needs and how we can better meet the needs of the students.
Okay, we're sharing some partners and like government agencies. So I'm also understanding you guys work together collaboratively as well. I think that's very important. Maybe you can share with us like what are some agencies or like partners that you guys talk to as well, because I think it gives the audience a better understanding like how is this collaborative approach being like taken.
Okay, yeah. So maybe in the area of student well-being, actually we've been working quite closely with our partners in the Ministry of Health, in the Ministry of Social and Family Development, even MDDI, because we recognize that student well-being cuts across the whole of society. It's not just about this particular segment that may be stressed or who may encounter challenges. So really the efforts of the Interagency Task Force for Mental Health, I think they announced their national strategy a few years back. So those efforts were really geared towards addressing mental health concerns of Singaporeans in general, and students was one important part of that.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's very important as well to work in collaboration, especially with now new trends coming up when it comes to children's well-being, right? So maybe you can share with us an example of like how an educator or a person can help a child identify the strength.
Okay. I was just reminded of this story that I watched at the recent rehearsal for the NDP, the National Day Parade. And this was about a boy who ended up in the boys' home, right? And of course, to get into the boys' home means you really didn't have it going well for you, right? But when he was in the home, he was introduced to this activity of drumming. And the sharing was that he actually picked up drumming and he discovered that he actually had a talent for it. And I think it's really through some of these experiences where people are able to identify the strengths of an individual that can really help them to see that actually there's a lot more that there is to themselves and to maybe also build up their sense of self-esteem. So I think it's really powerful when we are able to focus on the strengths of the child and not so much on the deficiencies or deficits.
I think that's very interesting also that you brought that up, because I think it also goes beyond how we communicate with children, right? Like how are we affirming them just by simply saying, I'm proud of how you have progressed. I'm proud of like, the effort that you're taking. It's like beyond the strengths, I feel that affirmation can be, kind of strengthened for like our whole ecosystem when it comes to working with children as well. And what's your take on that? Maybe I would like to just hear that aspect.
Okay. I think this goes back to the caring and enabling school environment that I talked about earlier, where we really want to encourage our teachers, the school leaders, everyone who is in that school community to be quite deliberate to adopt certain language, so that when we encourage our students, when we try to point them to the right way, actually we are all aligned. And we can use these everyday language to really encourage the students to reflect on what they have done, what they have not done so well, and to think about what they can do better. Okay, thanks for sharing that. All right. So like this is a question that we wanted to ask, especially because we feel some of us or like people that we have spoke to might have some misconception about CCE, maybe because like they have not really understand the CCE approach further, or like
rather the whole approach. Yeah, so there are some misconceptions that we want to kind of clarify from you and hear from you, right? So one is like the one question that we have is like, given that most teachers are like trained in the emphasis of academic outcomes, there might be varying like preparedness, like how we should, or motivation on how we should deliver CCE lessons, right? So like, what are some systemic supports given to them, like partnerships, training, or like co-facilitation, that kind of explore to help them ensure that the quality and consistency is like maintained in the delivery.
So you're right to say that actually when teachers join us in teaching, right, most of them didn't go through a course called CCE back in university. But actually we've been quite deliberate to introduce some of this training in the pre-service training at the NIE, National Institute of Education. That's where all our teachers go for their training before they are deployed to our schools. And even when they are in service, meaning they've already joined our schools, we've introduced a program called the Exploring the Heart of CCE. This is a professional development course for all school teachers, where they are introduced to the concepts of CCE as well as the pedagogical approaches. And it's something that is important because we recognize that it is not just about teaching a subject, right? You can't just teach the knowledge or the content, but we really need the teachers to also ask themselves, right? What is their own beliefs about the importance of CCE, right? And what is their own thinking about some of the values that we are trying to teach and we're also trying to catch, right? Not just to teach but also to catch. And how can we better encourage students to live out these values? So these questions are not easy ones,
Of course,
but I think the opportunity to have those discussions with the teachers is really important because it also helps them to think about what is it that they stand for as a teacher.
Yes. I think thanks for sharing that, because I think like the role of educator has also eventually evolved, right? From the start, it's not about just teaching subject now.
That's right.
It's really to connect with the kids. And for us, we feel educators really play a very important role in children's life because they are spending so much of time in school. And teachers, I would say, for me, even like when I was in school, I often see my teacher as my role model, right? So how they are behaving, how they are like working with one another is something I learned from. So I definitely feel that kind of training with like for them to relook or like see how their motivation like for CC is very important. So thanks for sharing about that.
Just to share a bit more. So last week I had the opportunity to be at the NIE for a talk, and I was speaking to these teacher trainees. They call them student teachers now. And they were in a course called the CCE in the Singapore Context program. And essentially this is our way of preparing them to teach CCE. And one question that I often ask the student teachers is, so what inspired you to join teaching, right? And then when they share their responses, you can see that the majority of them joined because they really wanted to make a difference. They wanted to inspire the young, and many of them will cite actually their personal experiences. Maybe they were helped by their own teachers, and they were really motivated, really inspired to come back, to give back. And I think this is something that's very important. Because you do want your teachers to be role models, and to really have that genuine desire to inspire the children. And I think that's something that we hold dear.
Of course, thanks for sharing that. I think that's really, really powerful. So I think another misconception that people have is like, it doesn't only matter, or like, will there be change only if like the school leaders in a school kind of like have that mindset, like I want to kind of have make a change in like to how we approach students' well-being in a school setting. Is that a right like kind of perception in your opinion?
I don't think that's the perception that I have.
Of course.
I've actually seen many colleagues in schools, be they the school leaders or the heads of department, or even the CCE teachers themselves, being very passionate about student well-being. And for them, I think what they do is they tend to be a bit more deliberative to think about the profile of their students and what might be the best way to approach that. I can just share one example. So at the start of the year, I had an opportunity to hear from this one junior college. And because the students are older at that age, they are able to exercise some autonomy to design experiences for their peers. So in this particular junior college, they actually had student interest groups set up. And one of them actually wanted to focus on this area of student well-being. And this has been in place for a couple of years. And what the student leaders of this particular group shared with us was they thought very hard, what is it that would interest their peers?
Mm.
So it wasn't what the teachers told them to do.
Yeah.
This was them thinking about their peers and their needs and then coming up with ideas. So they said, okay, maybe we will do a movie screening using films that were related to well-being, right, or to mental health, and to use that to spark a conversation. I thought that was a very beautiful example of students taking initiative, being empowered, and coming in to do something for their friends.
I think we should get them on board of Forte360 to
Yeah,
organize
I can
things,
let
right?
you know which one.
Okay, thank you. But I think I think what you have shared is very powerful also, because like giving the voice or hearing the children's voice is very important, and I think we also can learn a lot from the kids, right? Like, as they are like doing new things. I think I would have never think of that. Yeah, so thanks for sharing that. Yeah, so I think this is something that I would like to hear from you, especially. It's like, what do you feel is like the next step when it comes to the evolution of CCE? Because I feel CCE is really comprehensive. You guys are really doing an amazing job, because we work with some schools, we know how is it being implemented. It's really comprehensive. So what do you feel is the next step? Because now for CCE, so that it's like kind of embraced beyond like a subject, but rather a school's culture and a daily practice.
Okay. I feel that the next step for CCE is really for it to become a way of life, right? A way of life for our students, a way of life for the teachers. And if you go to some of our schools, you can actually feel it. They call it the vibes.
Yeah,
Like
the
when you go
vibes.
to a school and you feel that the students are happy, you look at the kind of interactions they have with one another, with their teachers, maybe even with the canteen vendors, with the cleaners in the school. There's that sense of respect, collegiality, and that desire to want to do something, to better that school, to better the environment. Maybe it's the programs, the activities, and everyone willing and very happy to step up and to contribute. So I think CC being a way of life is something that I really hope for.
I think we should put that as the title of today's episode. But I think that's really something that we hope that we can achieve as a nation as well. Because I feel what you mentioned, it's only not the kids, but also the teachers, right? So like that mindset change and how we can come in as partners to support the whole ecosystem is something that we hope to kind of
we feel like we should also look into as well. And I think as like our whole community and ecosystem, we also can take what you have actually shared, when it comes to leveraging our partners, parents, when it comes to like, really a village to kind of address children's well-being is something that I feel personally, we shouldn't just put the whole burden on educators. I feel it's not fair, because I think educators themselves, they have a lot they're juggling with, I would say. And we are here as a nation to really support our educators who are supporting children's well-being, right? Yeah, so thank you so much for being part of today's podcast. And I think I learned a lot, through our conversation. And with that, we have come to the end. Thank you.
Thank you.